welcome into the DNVR Rockies podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Lyons, and joining me today in just a little bit will be Kevin Henry from Fansided. He is live in Tampa. He was there for Game 1. He'll be there for Game 2. We'll break down some of these postseason series that have been going down. We'll, of course, do a little bit more on the autopsy of the 2023 Colorado Rockies, figure out more about what went wrong. We've talked a lot about the positives on Monday's show with Kenneth Weber from Purple Row, but now we'll get into the nitty-gritty. We'll get into some of the dirt. But first, there's Rockies news still going on. There are Rockies players still doing the damn thing, as it were. Arizona Fall League in action started up on Monday night down in Arizona. Rockies have 8 players with their Salt River Raptors affiliate. So the same place that they play in spring training is the spot that they have the Arizona Fall League going down at. 6 teams all around the Phoenix area. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're jonesing for baseballs as much as I am, I'm getting it right now. I think we're all getting it with the postseason. It's exciting. It's great. I think just like the World Baseball Classic reminded so many people here in Denver, in Colorado, in the Rocky Mountain region, how great the sport of baseball can be. We may have forgotten that just a little bit during the season, of course, with 103 losses by the Rockies. But we're reminded again here at the postseason. We're reminded with these young guys down in the minor leagues, in the Arizona Fall League, plying their trade, trying to get themselves into a condition, into playability where they are big leaguers within the next year. It's very possible. Monday, Juan Mejia was one of the AFL top performers in the same game as one of the Tigers' top pitching prospects, Jackson Jobe. Mejia was actually the most dominant, striking out 4, walking 1, even got White Sox top prospect Colson Montgomery to strike out. Also on Monday, you had Benny Montgomery leading the game off with a walk, hitting leadoff. Like to see that. Got a base hit. Sterling Thompson had himself a double in that first game. And then on Tuesday night, Sterling Thompson and Drew Romo both went 1 for 3. Another double for Sterling Thompson there, and 2 walks was what he was able to do on Monday as a second baseman. On Tuesday, he was a left fielder. This is a player that's going to be, I think, a major factor for the Rockies next season that could make an impact. In fact, it could really allow the Rockies to change some of their off-season plans, alter them, if you will. If Thompson is this major factor that the Rockies believe that he is, and a lot of the other prospect pundits have this guy as one of those top 100 range prospects, and I think he's got a lot more room to grow. If he can be that guy for the Rockies at second base, maybe even at third base, that could allow the Rockies to move on and possibly trade either Brendan Rodgers or Ryan McMahon. We discussed it on Monday's show. Rockies got plenty of hitters. They've got plenty of offense. What they need is pitchers. So I don't know that they're going to go around and just start calling other teams and saying, hey, what would you give us for any or all of our hitters? We'll just take the best offer. No, I think they have an idea who they would rather keep over another player. Brendan Rodgers, after this year, he only has 2 more years of club control. This is a point in which a lot of teams will either trade their player or lock them up to a long-term extension. That's what happened with this time last offseason, essentially, with Kyle Freeland, Antonio Senzatella, and Ryan McMahon. All those guys had 2 years left of club control, and the Rockies sat down and said, yeah, we want to keep you long-term. Let's give you an extension. And if they're not going to do that with Brendan Rodgers, and they need to free up some space in that infield for a guy like Sterling Thompson or second baseman like Adael Amador, a trade of Rodgers or a trade of McMahon could be coming this offseason. It would be very bold, but we know the Rockies need to be bold this offseason if they are going to bridge the gap and get themselves into the postseason as soon as 2025. On Monday, it was the 5th anniversary of the 2018 National League wildcard game. Go ahead and plug an article right there for you. Unlocked for free over at thednvr.com. Got a chance to sit down with Kyle Freeland in the dugout at Wrigley Field, where he was the starting pitcher, and the Rockies did win their last postseason game, the 2018 National League wildcard game against the Chicago Cubs. And personally, it was one of the best conversations I've had with a player. I think this year in the second half, I don't know if it was, to be honest, I don't know if it was a change for me, the way I approach some of my interviews with players, maybe just hitting my stride just a little bit, or the players just really feeling comfortable, or it's just something in the clubhouse. Nolan Jones could be one of those factors. We know how absolutely honest he can be. That's not to say that other guys aren't honest, but you get those stock baseball answers a lot with players. And it really seemed like in the second half, guys were opening up a little bit more and being more honest in sharing those little tidbits. I think that, make them human beings and helps you understand how they tick and helps you understand what they're trying to do on the field. And that conversation with Kyle Freeland very much seemed like that. He seemed to be all in his glory in a spot where, he came of age in that 2018 season where he finished fourth in the Cy Young Award voting. He also talked a little bit about the home run that he gave up to Shohei Ohtani. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but make sure you're checking that out over at thednvr.com. Today on October 4th, is unfortunately a 6th anniversary of the 2017 National League Wild Card game. The Rockies had been waiting to get back to the postseason. They waited 8 years from 2009, got back in Bud Black's first year there in 2017. And for my money, I think that 2017 wildcard game was just as good, if not maybe even better than 2018, if not for the outcome. Of course, so many back and forths. It was heartbreaking from the get-go because John Gray just didn't have it. You saw that early on. Tyler Anderson came in to possibly give some length. He didn't have it, gave up a couple runs. D-backs scored 3 in the first there at Chase Field in 2017 in that wild card game. A run in the second, 2 runs in the third. They were down 6-0 after 3, but then came the comeback. Then came the dudes, the Rockies team that just did not have any quit in them. They had the dog in them. 4 runs in the fourth against Zach Greinke. Cargo single, Trevor Story single, Gerardo Parra single, Jonathan Lucroy, a name that does not get enough attention when we talk about great Rockies catchers. He was only here for a few months, but he did his job in a big way in this wild card game. He doubled, and you also got a pinch hit single from, think about it, Alexi Amarista. Yes, put the 4th run across home plate. It was a new ball game in the 4th, 6-4 Diamondbacks in the 7th. Another double from Lucroy, and he scores on a Blackman bunt to make it 6-5 in the 7th. And then, yes, that Archie Bradley triple that sucked the air out of the Rockies, sucked the air out of Chase Field. If you've got those memories, go ahead, leave them in the comments now. I know that's kind of hard times to have to possibly deal with that, but nevertheless, Archie Bradley. Well, he ended up giving up those 2 runs right away after his triple. Back-to-back home runs for Arenado and Story. Made it 8-7, and then Greg Holland, after being so great so long for the Rockies in 2017. He was an all-star with them. Gives up 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th. Rockies got 1 in the 9th, but lose 11-8. Not a wild card game we like to talk about very much, but nevertheless, man, it definitely set the pace for 2018 and say, hey, we got to win these kind of games. We got to do the little things well in order to make sure that we don't end our season early. And they didn't. They won the wild card game. Didn't win game 163 against the Dodgers in 2018, but they won that wild card game, and they got swept by those Brewers in Milwaukee. We'll talk about what's going on in Milwaukee right now, a team with a similar makeup to that 2018 Colorado Rockies team, I think, in a sense. We'll get to that in a moment, but do got to tell you about Breckenridge Distillery, widely known for their blended bourbon whiskey, a high rye mash, American-style whiskey. We're talking Breckenridge Bourbon, the official bourbon of the Denver Broncos. They want to give you 2 tickets to that Chargers-Broncos game at the end of the season, December 31st. It's super easy. All you got to do, post your favorite photo to Instagram or Facebook and use hashtag Broncos Bourbon. They're going to see that. Do that before the end of November, because on December 1st, they're going to narrow it down to their 10 favorites, hashtag Broncos Bourbon. They'll go out. There'll be a fan vote. It's amazing. Go to BreckenridgeDistillery.com/bourbon of the Denver Broncos to learn more about that. They're going to be at all of our Broncos tailgates, all of our DNVR bar watch parties, which are going to be popping off. Now is the time. You think summers would be the time for a watch party, but no, everyone's outside. Everyone's doing their things. We need to have DNVR bar BQs. How about that? I don't know if we have access to the roof, but we got to work on that. Nevertheless, it's watch party season. It's coming up right around the corner. Breckenridge Distillery and their Ricky Seltzers, which are made with Breck Spirits. Breckenridge Distillery, available and made for all 50 states. You can get them anywhere. Shop your local retailer by going over to BreckenridgeDistillery.com for home delivery of the award-winning Breckenridge Spirits, because après, anywhere. As I said, in the corner of Colfax, New York, that's where we're doing the big things at the DNVR bar. You sign up, you become a diehard, you get access to the Diehards Only Discord. Shout out to everybody in the Diehards Only Rockies Discord, tearing it up, even in the postseason. Love you folks. that are over there. We also get 15% off all of your food and drink. You get a free shirt each and every year. You get 20% off all the gear. We've got the new Stalwart collection, a really nice looking green and gold CSU Rams shirt. Be a Good Person collaboration. Love those tees. I had to order a couple myself. You get 20% off of those bad boys. Plenty of CU Buffs and Coach Prime gear. They're also, you're going to get a discount if you want to go to our tailgate down in Tempe. That's right. CU Buffs, Arizona State. This weekend, you get a discount if you're there. Broncos tailgate on Sunday. You know there's going to be a win against the Jets. You get a discount on that as well when you are a diehard. So get yourself signed up over at thednvr.com. Check out all of our wonderful gear over at dnvrlocker.com as well. Well, I'm hoping my man is here, and I'm hoping he's not up in the rafters. You are in the rafters.
I'm pretty darn close, man. I tell you what, plenty of room here at the Trop today. So it is all good, brother. How are you?
Yeah, just a little bit. You know, that was stories. I think maybe that's good for the Rays because they didn't play very well, making 4 errors on defense. But attendance under 20,000. That seemed to be the number that people cared a lot more about than the 4-0 outcome for the Rangers.
I'm here with all my best friends here in this section, as you can see. So, yeah, as it turns out, good seats still available for today's Rangers-Rays game.
Yeah, it's a great time to plug some game time tickets for sure. Nathan in the chat saying, hey, I followed him a little bit in the minors, but Ethan Carter outstanding yesterday for the Rangers. I know you and I were texting, was, you know, one of the youngest players to do this, one of the youngest to do that, reach base 4 times. He was really impressive for a kid who just turned 21 and just made his debut not that long ago.
And it's funny, that was one of the guys that we brought up yesterday. Went down to the locker room. By the way, said hi to John Gray yesterday. It was good to see him down the Rangers locker room. But absolutely, Marcus Semien, Corey Seager both said this guy isn't playing like a rookie at all. This guy is playing like somebody who's been here before, done that. And so, yeah, Carter was getting a lot of love all the way around for the Rangers there in the press box.
And look, when you make a run in the postseason, you got to get contributions from just about everybody. And, hey, Evan Carter's there. Might as well. I think we're still going to see that continuing trend of players making their major league debut in the postseason. You never know where you're going to get it from. So Evan Carter was the big guy, obviously, for the Rangers. And as was Jordan Montgomery, who looked amazing and seemed every penny worth that trade deadline acquisition for the Rangers.
Yeah, this is going to be a guy that's going to be a hot commodity moving forward. And that's the thing. Montgomery wasn't just doing it with his pitching. I mean, you saw him lay out for that big catch. It was a momentum changer when he got down the first base line to get that. But, you know, you and I both sit at Coors Field and we watch PFP going all the time. You know, the pitchers doing their fielding drills, running over the first base. There were countless times yesterday that Montgomery was doing that. And it was the key because you saw on the other side, Tampa Bay, just saying, did not have a good day at first base defensively. So the difference there was very high.
Yeah, I think it was, the first time that they had made 4 errors in a game since, 2021. We haven't seen that many in a postseason game in quite a while. So, yeah, really, really sloppy, especially when it seemed like Tampa might have had a lot of momentum, not because of the 10th man on the field, if you will. Although maybe that's what they should call it in Tampa Bay because there's only 10 fans in the ballpark, the 10th fan at the Trop. But it got started off with a really cool first pitch for Randy Arozarena, his mom. That was awesome to see.
It was, and Randy talked about that today before the game. Talked about what it was like to finally get his mom to watch him play in the MLB game. Of course, we know what Randy, Adolis Garcia, so many of these guys who have defected from Cuba have gone through just to get to this point. But you don't ever think about the families and what they do behind the scenes to actually get there as well. And it has taken all this time for Randy to be able to finally get that visa for his mom. And let me tell you, she threw a strike yesterday, man. And that was impressive to see.
I think we could be having this new trend of baseball moms going out there and throwing strikes. We saw with Brusdar Gratterall's mom. It's like I kind of want every player to have their mom throw out a first pitch. I think it would be a little bit better than, no offense, some of the season ticket holders that the Rockies end up running out there just a little bit. So Tampa and Rangers are there. We also got to see, kind of a small story, but a real big story down under. Curtis Mead, first Australian position player to make the postseason, only the second postseason appearance by an Australian-born player. The other reliever, Graham Lloyd, in the 1996 World Series. Don't remember that at all. but comes through with a big hit right there in the middle of the lineup. So that's another one of those fun little stories you can only find in October.
There were a lot of things that went right yesterday for the Rangers and went wrong for the Rays. And Kevin Cash was asked today, what does your team have to do? And he said, it's real simple. And it sounds like Bud Black, so get ready. We got to play defense and we got to pitch well. And honestly, they didn't do either one of those yesterday. Tyler Glasnow was talking about how that he couldn't locate his fastball and all of his breaking stuff wasn't working. So he had one pitch and he wasn't comfortable with it. And you could certainly tell that with the walks, the wild pitch he uncorked, all these different things that happened yesterday that went bad for the Rays. And the question is, can they shake it off today?
They're going to have to absolutely do that. I know the Lowe brothers are having to shake some things off on the flip side, talking about family and baseball and things, not being pretty. It should have been a celebration, I think. And in a way, I think it is, of the Lowe brothers, Josh for the Rays and Nathaniel, first baseman for the Texas Rangers, two brothers playing against each other here in the American League Wild Card Series. But their mom's not doing well, unfortunately. I know Susie talked about that yesterday, and that's unfortunately been somewhat of a topic of conversation here in and around the ballpark.
It has. That was one of it was the first question that was asked in Nathaniel Lowe yesterday. It was very simple. It was, how's your mom? And man, all of us in the press area was just like, oh, and you could tell he got emotional about it. And I get a little emotional about just thinking about him and what all he's going through. He talked about how yesterday was his grandma's birthday and the dad wasn't here because he was with the mom and, all these different things that, along with this guy trying to focus on a baseball game, we're reminded that there's a lot of things that are bigger than baseball. And Lowe brothers are going through that right now. So absolutely prayers to them for everything they're going through. But yeah, yesterday that was just a real subtle reminder that, if a guy goes 0 for 4, sometimes you never know what's going on.
Yeah, you gotta hope everything goes well with mom's chemotherapy. I know dad is with the mom, so I mean you don't have any of the parents there, but one of them's guaranteed to win, go on to the next round. So I mean maybe that's kind of the silver lining, as it were. Look, there's a lot of silver linings when it comes to Shady Rays right now, because they got a buy one get one deal right now, and the glasses look absolutely amazing. Even better than how they look is their guarantee. It's that if you buy a pair, or you break a pair, or you lose a pair, they're going to go ahead and send you a new one absolutely free. It's amazing. You can return it if you don't like it in 30 days. But we know you're going to love them. They get 5 stars by over 250,000 folks all around the internet. People love their Shady Rays. If you want to try them on in person, you don't want to believe me for take me at my word, go down to the Park Meadows Mall, buy 2 or more pairs of those polarized shades. Try them out. See what you like there. You get 50% off all those bad boys. So it's absolutely fantastic. Split it with your friends if you need to go ahead and do that. And it's Shady Rays with code DNVR as well. Don't forget that one. So yeah, Game Time tickets. If you're down in the Tampa area, you don't want to walk up to the box office and get your tickets because they've got plenty of them to sell. And in fact, there's probably some season ticket holders for the Rays that don't want their tickets right now and maybe aren't able to go or are planning to go. That's where Game Time tickets comes in. You use code DNVR, you can get $20 off your first purchase with Game Time tickets. And on top of that, you can go ahead and probably sit behind home plate well below face value. You can get up to 60% off of face value tickets, whether you do want to be behind home plate, whether you want to be in foul territory to catch a foul ball, or possibly catch a home run somewhere in Tropicana Field. It's good for basketball if you want to sit center court or courtside. If you want to be near the puck drop for the NHL games here at Ball Arena, take your pick, but go to Game Time. I've been using it for a while. They got last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Use that code DNVR. Lowest price. It's guaranteed. All right, Kevin. Man, I tell you, yesterday's games, were there any of the other, and so we should point out that the starters today, we got Nathan Eovaldi from the Rangers and Zach Eflin, kind of a local guy there for the Rays on the bump. You feeling one way or another? Do you think Eflin can kind of repeat what he was able to do a little bit in the postseason last year with the Phils?
Yeah, and honestly, that's the hope down here. And that's what's been talked about a whole bunch is that Zach Eflin has to do what he did last year with the Phillies. And he talked about that yesterday. He said, been here, done that. And of course, it was before the Rays dropped the first game. But still, there was a lot of anticipation about what he was going to bring to the mound today. Honestly, I do expect the Rays to come out on top. I think that they will. There's no way they can keep playing as badly as they did yesterday, as well as keep that offense under wraps like they have.
Yeah, were there any players or teams yesterday that either won or lost, performed or didn't, that made you maybe change how you thought about the players? Only one game, but sometimes one game you can see a lot or you can learn a lot from something like that.
Hey, I'm going to stick with the Tampa theme here and go Evan Longoria. And that play he made yesterday, let me tell you what, you talk about a game changer and proving that us, the old guys can still play a little bit of ball. So that was really good to see. And absolutely, shout out to our friend Jesse, but, you think that those Diamondbacks certainly have a hand up right now in what they're doing in Milwaukee.
Yeah, if you're 30 years old or older, you're kind of an old guy when it comes to sports. So that was for you. Yeah, Evan Longoria, clutch. I think he had started only twice in the final 12 games of the regular season at third base or anywhere. So that was a huge part, and just needed that veteran presence, Torey Lovullo said. And boy, he got it with Longoria there, that big double play that thwarted a potential big inning for the Brewers there in the fifth. The young guys really stepped up. They were down early 3-0 with Brandon Pfaadt on the hill. Second youngest starter in D-backs history. Second shortest outing as he gets pulled in the third. But Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte go back-to-back on consecutive pitches, something that Corbin Burns had never allowed before. He had given up back-to-back dingers before to some pretty good pairs, right? To Paul Goldschmidt and Matt Carpenter in 2019. And then last year, Austin Riley and Marcell Ozuna. But now back-to-back. And in the postseason, I mean, these young guys for the Diamondbacks have been really exciting to watch.
They have been. And I will tell you, my mother-in-law lives in Tucson. I always get my Diamondbacks updates from her. It's amazing. She was off the charts last night. I was in a sports bar watching the game. She was right there with me. And I will tell you, it's an interesting thing because we talk a lot about in Colorado the melting pot of fans that there are. And I know the DNVR talks about nobody in Colorado is really Dodgers in the postseason. Right? I saw that on Twitter earlier. I will tell you, the sports bar I was at last night, there were Phillies jerseys, there were Brewers jerseys, D-backs jerseys. I mean, everybody was represented in there. So it kind of made me feel like maybe Denver's not the only place with the melting pot as far as sports goes.
Yeah, but in Tampa, they don't go to the games, whereas in Denver, they do. A lot of that might have to do with the stadium behind you, right?
You don't like the big eye? I think Shady Rays could put a big sunglass on that. What do you think?
That branding right there, done.
I'm telling you, baby. I'm telling you.
You got to get a little cut of that, I think, at least. You got Zach Gallen against Freddie Peralta, a nice pitching matchup. Splits haven't been kind to Zach Gallen, though. His ERA is 2 runs higher on the road. In the second half, he was about a run worse than he was in the first half. But in his 2 starts this year against the Brewers, 14 in the third inning pitched, allowed 1 run, struck out 15. I mean, this is kind of the game. You need Gallen to go out there and shove, put this thing away, get a few days before going to LA for the next round.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I'm an NL West guy. I'm ready to see a Diamondbacks Dodgers ALDS. I think that'll be a lot of fun, and I absolutely as well am thinking that a Phillies Braves second round, that's going to be a lot of fun as well too in Atlanta.
Yeah, and whoever wins that game, it's going to be an NL East matchup, which is absolutely fantastic right there. So it's kind of, it's called the division series, and yet teams typically don't play teams in their division. Hey, we're going to get back to that now. It's nice. As you alluded to, Phillies win 4-1. Zack Wheeler was wheelering and dealering, I think, as nobody says. Alec Baum, Stott, Pache, all RBI. Castellanos gets the RBI double for insurance. There was an opportunity there for the Marlins there in the 7th. Jose Alvarado struck out Yuli Gurriel to break the Marlins back. I tell you what, I think the Marlins could be winning game 2 today with Braxton Garrett on the hill and his 3.66 ERA. I think he's been better than sneaky good. Sneaky bad, Aaron Nola, 4.46 ERA. I think he really needs to show something here, especially with his last 2 starts, last 3 starts against San Diego in the NLCS and against Houston last year in the World Series. This one could go the Marlins' way in game 2.
And don't forget, Nola's a free agent after the offseason, so absolutely, he wants to shine this postseason, show teams exactly, including the Phillies, should I say, exactly why they need to invest in him. So really interesting to see what Nola does today.
Last but not least, Twins over the Blue Jays 3-1. Pablo López, not perfect, but he was on his game, 5 2/3 innings pitched. Only gave up 1 run, bested Colorado's Kevin Gausman. And to think, between the two trades that were made in the offseason, old school baseball trades, players for players. They really shaped them. I think they made a difference this postseason. Pablo López goes from Miami to Minnesota. Miami ends up getting Luis Ariz. If that trade doesn't happen, I don't think the Twins or the Marlins make the postseason. And then Dalton Varsho goes from Arizona to Toronto. Toronto gets Gabriel Moreno, who hit a big home run in Game 1 on Tuesday. And they also get Lourdes Gurriel, who's an all-star. If those trades don't happen for the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays, neither of those two teams make the postseason either.
I completely agree. You're spot on with that Marlins Twins trade. I think that was one that is going to be analyzed for a long time because I think it's going to work out well for both teams. And yeah, I'm really excited. Can the Twins not only snap the streak yesterday, but can they keep it going today? You know, everybody thought, oh, Blue Jays. You know, everybody here in Tampa, I can tell you, they were ready for the Blue Jays to come into the series. And of course, things fell very strangely, and here come the Rangers. But, you know, everybody thought, oh, the Blue Jays are going to Minnesota to take care of business. Not so much. And I really do think the Twins are going to knock them off today.
And I was a huge Jose Berrios fan a couple years ago, and then he kind of flamed out. Still a huge fan of Sonny Gray. I mean, this guy, he's on the bumping game too. It's Gray versus Berrios. I think the Twins are gonna put this one away today in Game 2.
And can I tell you who I'm a big fan of? That's Chris Paddock. Chris Paddock's going to come out of the bullpen for the Twins. Got to talk to him whenever the Twins were in town for the Rockies. Of course, he pitched some at Coors Field and talked about how he's come back from off-season surgery, how he missed so much time with Tommy John. What's taken for him to get back on the mound? And I'll tell you, anybody that does that, whether it's from Ron Marquez, Chris Paddock, doesn't matter who it is, whenever they come back, man, they deserve some props because you know they've been through a lot just to get back on that mound. So I'm anxious to see what Paddock does today if he gets in.
Paddock, John Duran. I mean, there are dudes back there in that bullpen. So, hey, man, that's why they play the games. We don't know who's going to win, but we've got our predictions. Did you say what you thought was going to happen today in Tampa?
Yeah, I think the Rays are going to come out. I think that they're going to come out firing. I think they are going to jump on gone blank, but I think they're going to jump on Texas early. And I think that you cannot hold down the Rays offense like you did yesterday, 2 games in a row. But previous postseasons have proven me wrong, so we'll see what happens.
Yep, Nathan Eovaldi getting the ball there for the Rangers. This is Game 2 is the most pivotal game. That if you win it, I think you have a decent shot at going all the way. But teams that win Game 1, I think in this three-game series format have gone on, like, I think 85% of the time. Granted, we don't have a huge sample size, but if you get Game 1, you're getting a ton of momentum here. So these series are quick. These series are very quick.
And, hey, you and I have talked about it. You know, we talked about a lot of the offseason signings and what they mean to teams. Don't overlook what Bruce Bochy's brought to the Rangers. And him coming on board this season and that steady Eddie presence that he brings, it's really showing up this year.
Absolutely. That's a big one. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today. Have some fun. Make sure you get your sunscreen on. Actually, scratch that last part.
Oh, come on. I saved you a seat. You can sit right over here. Anywhere you want. I got you a seat, man.
I picked that one. There you go. That's why you got to watch live on YouTube so you can find out which one I exactly specifically pointed to. So, go ahead and plug away. Let folks know what you're working on, where they can find you, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I covered this for Fansided, so check out fansided.com/MLB. Got a lot of stuff going on there. Usually 3 things I heard in the clubhouse. That'll go up later today after I go down to the winning clubhouse and hear all about today's champ.
You only hang out with winners, which is why I'm surprised you and I get along so well.
Oh, see, I was going to say, that's why I hang out with you, but then you turned it on me. So there you go.
I'm flipping it. Kevin, thanks so much, man. Have fun today.
All right, brother. See you, man. Bye.
Man, we're having tons of fun when it comes to Breck Brew, Broncos country. Still the brew of the month. Look, they've extended it. I think September now officially has, 34 days in it? That's what we're doing, right? Because Broncos country is the spot. It hits the spot, I should say. It's got those high wire hops from North Fork Valley. Look, it's made with 100% renewable energy right here in Colorado. Support local business. Support us when you do that. Go over to the beer locator at breckbrew.com to find a brew near you. Yeah, that's a Twin series and Jays, definitely an interesting one. Royce Lewis had 2 home runs. Another one of those rookies, I think, that got overlooked. I don't think Nolan Jones is going to get as overlooked in the Rookie of the Year voting quite as much as Royce Lewis. And I think the players in the American League might be slightly stronger at the front end, so to speak. But Lewis, 15 home runs in 58 games. That's a lot. You got to be healthy. You got to be a little bit better than that to stay on the field. He's had some unfortunate luck when it comes to injuries, but the 24-year-old goes off for 2 home runs in that Game 1. As I was saying with Sonny Gray, one of the, I think, most overlooked pitchers of his generation. I don't think, he's not one of those ace guys that you think of, but shoot, when you think about maybe 1B, or when you think about the best number twos and is a number two each and every year in posts, it's Sonny Gray. He's had 7 seasons of 2.3 wins above replacement on Baseball Reference or higher, tied for the 10th most among active players. You bump that up to 3.1 wins above replacement. He's got 5 of them, tied for 9th most. He's a player who's done it kind of on the fringes. First in Oakland, then in Cincinnati. Didn't have quite as much luck there when he went to the Yankees, and then here now with Minnesota, 3-time All-Star, doing it in those 3 smaller places other than New York. So Sonny Gray, definitely a guy that is worth watching today if you need a game and watch just how he's able to kind of pick apart the Jays offense, who needs to get the job done here. And they need to do it in a big way. Susie did a really good job running through that list of former Rockies players. Only five former Rockies players that are on postseason rosters. John Gray, not one of them, on the IL. But a couple of interesting little Colorado-related wrinkles. Now, the Rays opted to go with only 11 pitchers for this series. Most of the other teams, 12 or 13. They said, look, hey, it's a short series. We trust our starting pitchers. We think they're going to be fine, and so far they have been for the most part. So they don't end up including Kevin Kelly. He was left off the roster. Who is he? Who's Kevin Kelly? Well, he was actually the Rockies' Rule 5 pick back in December, who, being in the room there for the Rule 5 draft in San Diego, we got the sign from Rockies officials. Hold on a second. Hey, we're still going to tweet it out. You did draft the guy, but hold on. We're not keeping him. He was traded for cash considerations to Tampa. And, of course, the Rays, as they did with, Robert Stevenson, able to make those tweaks, able to use that analytic department that they have to get the best out of their guys to really develop at the big league level. As I mentioned, Kevin Gausman, Grandview High School in Aurora, got those ties to Colorado. Bo Bichette, son of Dante Bichette. For Minnesota, you have Griffin Jacks, a guy who went to Cherry Creek High School, did go to the Air Force Academy. He's a player worth rooting for. And then on Arizona, you got 2 guys, Scott McGough on the IL, but you may recall he did play with the Isotopes back in 2018. Didn't get a chance to suit up as a Rocky officially. I guess Scott McGough and Ryan Howard are in the same part of your mind when it comes to thinking about Rockies who were Rockies but never played for the Rockies. So Scott McGough, one of those players. And then bench coach Jeff Bannister for the Diamondbacks, served as the director of player development for the University of Northern Colorado back in 2021. So you like those connections. Corbin Burns and numerous other Milwaukee Brewers cut their teeth in Colorado Springs when the Sky Sox were still around and the Rockies had transitioned away from Colorado Springs over to Albuquerque. You have Joe Payamps in the bullpen for the Brewers, developed by the Rockies in the minor league. So some of those small connections, and of course, we'll get to a few more once we get to the division series and we get caught up with the Los Angeles Dodgers and Atlanta on the National League side, and then on the American League side with the Baltimore Orioles and the Houston Astros, who finished with the same record as the Texas Rangers. But we don't do 161 anymore. So the Astros are given the AL West on a tiebreaker, and they get a bye, whereas the Rangers, they've got to pay. They've got to play to get in to that next round. And so far, so good for them. Now, some of the negatives in the Rockies autopsy on Monday. Again, we went through a lot of these positives for the Rocks. Go ahead and leave a comment in the chat if you're watching along live on YouTube, DNVR Sports channel. You can still leave comments there, even if you're listening to this as a podcast or watching this after when we are no longer live. You can still leave those comments. We see those and love commenting on them. Read them out there today. If you got any questions about the 2023 season, about what might be coming for the 2024 season, leave them in the chat. But look, the last time that the Rockies ever had their worst ever season, we know, was 2012, where they lost 98 games. It took them 5 more years to reach the postseason at that point. Is it going to take the Rockies 5 more years to do that? Again, we're going to have to wait and see. Are they going to get some more pitching? Because the pitching is not anywhere right now, unfortunately. Marquez and Senzatella, they're going to be good for a few months at best, but they won't be their best as they recover from Tommy John surgery. It really won't be until 2025 that the players get that upgrade or get back to themselves, really, after having the Tommy John surgery. Prospects, unfortunately, on the pitching side, didn't really take steps forward in the upper levels of the minors. You did have the 3 Tommy John surgeries to Gabriel Hughes, Jackson Cox, Jordy Vargas, Double-A Hartford staff. struggled a little bit, not catastrophic, but, there's probably not going to be any real immediate help from those guys, maybe in the second half. But again, going into the season, you want a strong starting five. Bullpen, I think it's going to sort itself out. I think that's going to really be like the silver lining. The good is the offense. Bad's going to be the starting pitching. The silver lining is going to be the bullpen. There are guys I think that you can hope on. You can hope on the hype for, like the Jake Birds, the Justin Lawrences, even a Gavin Hollowell, Matt Cook, maybe you've got something there. And then the veterans, Daniel Bard, you hope can bounce back. Tyler Kinley, again, he's going to be himself. You're going to get Lucas Gilbert back. And then you can supplement a little bit with some of those one-year deals. And then trade those guys at the deadline like you did last year. I think one of the biggest things that really didn't get talked about a lot in the summertime and even the second half is the fact that the Rockies, may have left a little meat on the bone when it came to Elias Diaz. Now, he did break the franchise record for most games played as a catcher. Incredibly valuable in the first half of the season, really was the team's MVP through April and May, doing it defensively, navigating a starting rotation that was just grabbing guys off the waiver wire just about everywhere, doing the same thing with the bullpen guys. And with doing it at the plate as well, in a major way, nearly leading the league in batting average just behind Luis Arias for, 6 weeks or so into the season. So he was their MVP and then was literally the MVP of the 2023 All-Star game up there in Seattle at T-Mobile Park. But after that, look, he has another year of team control, which has obviously a lot of value to the Rockies. But are the Rockies going to the postseason next year? No. Do they need a veteran catcher to help navigate the rotation and the bullpen again? Yes. Can they go out and get a guy on a 1-2 year deal and not really pay a lot for them and flip an Elias Diaz for a team that is really desperate for catching? I think that's really the question that lingers after the deadline. Is the player with their most value at this trade deadline did not get moved. And so, I did hear from some folks in the second half within the Rockies organization that, yes, we overvalue our guys too much. And it's something that's been happening, for a while. So credit where credit's due. They took baby steps this last off season as well. They traded the three guys that we said they were going to trade. The three biggest fan favorites ultimately, right? Connor Joe, Sam Hilliard, and then they just let Wynton Bernard go to make room on the 40-man roster. They cut him, but 4 deals at the deadline, nice step. But what happened with Elias Diaz, a guy that maybe could have helped shift the haul that you got? I don't think it's greedy to ask that, but I think it is a fair question in general. We also talked on Monday, briefly about the fact that there is a logjam, which is a good thing, but not necessarily for a team that lost 103 games. You've got a lot of positions where you're locked in, and so there's not tons of spots where you're going to be able to give some of these young guys playing time. After 2024, Charlie's gone. Elias Diaz more than likely will be gone. You got to hope that Drew Roma will be there to take over full-time. Or if not, you can sign kind of a career backup player to carry most of the weight as the starter. That's possible, but that's only room for 2 players now for the on the hitting side of things. Some guys are going to get hurt. We do think there could be a significant trade coming this offseason with one of their hitters, so that's going to create room for a 3rd spot, and things just end up sorting themselves out just a little bit. We'll dig in deeper with the offseason wish list, but I think at the top of the list is just 2 significant trades that bring back some pitching. It's got to be a trade of a much more major prospect. Now, they did get Jeff Criswell there in the offseason. I think that was a great deal. Chad Smith for Jeff Criswell, and Criswell provided the depth. We didn't see him in the majors, but definitely provided that stability for the Isotopes at AAA. They're going to need to add him to the 40-man roster this year or else expose him to the Rule 5 draft. I think that was a really good trade, but it might have to be something a little bit more ambitious. They may need to go out and find their next Germán Marquez. And obviously that's a very high bar, but they have to at least try to go out there and do that. They need more veteran relievers as well. Those are the key things that the Rockies are going to need to do to be able to say that they've had a successful offseason. Let's go ahead and remember a couple of names here before we get out of here. I got 6 names of players that in a couple years' time, we might not remember them, partially because they didn't really stick around very long. They didn't play a ton of time, didn't get a lot of innings in the field or on the bump, whatever it may be. Some names might be more memorable than others, but in 2 years' time, just like in the 2021 season, if you throw out the name Taylor Motter, some people go, I don't remember that happening at all. He did happen for the Rockies in 2021. That was a real thing. Kevin Pillar in 2020. That was a real thing. That absolutely happened. So here are 6 names that happened. Blair Calvo, 1 inning, 3 batters. I think he was on the Arizona Fall League team last year. Got added to the 40-man roster, was really hyped up as a good bullpen arm, and I think he very well can be. He's on the older side there. I think he might have turned 28 during the course of the season. Was traded to Detroit, again, after 1 inning and facing 3 batters. Unfortunately, didn't fare much better playing in the International League versus the Pacific Coast League, so did not get back to the majors with the Tigers. Justin Brule, player that was eventually designated for assignment, but he did return to the organization back with the Isotopes in September. So he's still around. We'll wait and see what happens with him this offseason, but only pitched 7 games right when folks really started turning their attention away for the Rockies. If you were listening to this podcast, you didn't turn your attention away, so there's a good chance you remember Justin Brule, technically a guy that they acquired from the Dodgers at the trade deadline, a nice left-handed reliever. Fernando Abad, he'll be the one I think that people will remember. 2 stints with the Rockies, up and down, designated for assignment twice, did pitch 6 games, 6 1/3 innings pitch. Again, twice on that 40-man roster. Connor Kaiser made his major league debut in Cincinnati. Played all 3 games there. Only started twice. Only got 4 plate appearances. You'll remember that his call-up was necessitated by the fact that Ezequiel Tovar, he and his wife were going into labor there. Had his son Luciano while the team was in Cincinnati. So Connor Kaiser, they needed a shortstop. He was the guy that they plugged in there on the 40-man roster. Cole Tucker, yeah, people will remember him. And I think the diehards here on DNVR Rockies podcast and at DNVR_Rockies on Twitter will definitely remember him and his fiance just a little bit. I think we may have talked about that. I think we might have covered that on the podcast. If not, we'll have to just loop back around on that. And then also Jorge Alfaro. Yeah, that happened. That was a thing. 10 games, 32 plate appearances. First ever Rockies player from the country of Colombia, Jorge Alfaro. 6 names to remember. Blair Calvo, Justin Brule, Fernando Abad, Connor Kaiser, Cole Tucker, Jorge Alfaro. You put those names all in a row. Ask a Rockies fan, say, what do these names have in common? Are they going to be able to say all 6 of them played with the Rockies this year? If they are, they're a diehard, and you're going to love our content over on Twitter at DNVR_Rockies, at Patrick D. Lyons is where I can be found on Twitter. Make sure you are subscribing anywhere you listen to podcasts, leaving us a review. We need more reviews. We got to get some more of those current ones on there. Get some good mojo going for us there. Do the same thing, like, share, and subscribe at DNVR Sports on YouTube, where we're going to be back because, look, we got to keep this momentum going just a little bit. We will be back tomorrow on Thursday right here at 12 p.m. live on the DNVR Sports channel here on YouTube.
We all silly like the mayor.